Bitcoin under 100K US dollars is a generational buying opportunity that might not last that much longer. Today I talk with Halston why buying Bitcoin is the same generational opportunity the boomers had back in the day with real estate. And by the way, do not get in a fight with Peter Schiff. You might end up like me with this lip. Enjoy. What do you think is the message that you think is the biggest or most impactful message that you have for the Bitcoin community?
Yeah, I think what's resonated the most, especially with my younger audience, is that the money is broken. And because the money is broken, we have suffered from a lot of financial nihilism, and it's becoming increasingly more difficult for young people to envision a future that they can actually afford. And in the States, the American dream seems no longer attainable. And so I think that message and coupled with that, the message that Bitcoin is a solution to all of that and helps best prepare us for a future that we can afford and the typical American dream.
Yeah, it's this American dream is fun because it came up a lot in Bitcoin, and it actually I think it's kind of like without Bitcoin it would be. I mean, I don't know how you look at it, but I feel like it's almost dead without Bitcoin. Like it's very hard for people, for young people that are under 25, especially under 20, to achieve something for themselves, like have property for themselves.
It is very difficult, yeah. And then with every print they do, it just becomes more and more difficult and almost impossible, which makes it, a lot of people will say Gen Z is, lazy. They don't know how to work hard. They're depressed. There's too much anxiety. And I think these are just all results, negative effects of the money being broken, because when a young person is a fresh grad, they've just graduated from college and 50 to 60% of their paycheck is going to rent and they can't properly save, what do they have to look forward to? So they start giving into these high time preference activities. And honestly, like that's a very valid reason for a young person to deal with depression and anxiety, because it kind of just when you're not able to afford things and you're living month to month, it kind of makes you question, what is the purpose of life? What am I doing? And what especially if you've done everything correctly, you've gone to college, you got the degree, you got the good job, you have the decent salary, but nothing seems to be working out. Really makes you question where you went wrong.
I sometimes wonder if Gen Z is the most affected generation of the fiat system, because it was born into a complete fiat system, and the fiat system was the most accelerated. But at the same, and we haven't been born with Bitcoin also. I mean, depending on where Gen Z you are, I think you've been born before Bitcoin. Some Gen Z might already been born where Bitcoin was there, but I feel like Gen Z might actually be the most effective generation of the fiat system.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah, you look at like the boomers and even the Gen Xers, a lot of them still they did go through some big prints, and there was the 2008 financial crisis. But even then, like you said, like we're the ones that really had to grow up with that and grow up with the poor choices that were made during that time. The boomers, I mean, bless their hearts. I don't want to hate on an entire generation, but they did have it a lot easier than say we have it when it comes to attaining those assets. I think I agree. My generation has really suffered the most from the brokenness of the money. However, I always say we are the first generation to have so many tools. We have like Bitcoin. This is like, I see it as perfect money and honestly the best asset there is now. And even tangentially, like we have digital credit and all these other really cool tools that other generations didn't have. Secondly, we have the internet, which we grew up with, and we're a digitally native generation. And so learning the internet, learning how to use social media has really been a benefit to us. And the third thing, now we have AI and these incredible tools to help us make money faster than ever. And a lot of young people haven't really caught on to this yet, but I am very bullish on my generation's ability to afford these things that have become unaffordable and seem unattainable, because we have these three things that really no other generation has ever had as our foundation.
And it's fun because we are the first generation that has native, like that was born into AI, born into Bitcoin, and born into the internet, social media, the globalization. It's really like if you think about 50 years ago, 100 years ago, you only knew about your own small village. Now you see everything of around the whole world, and you can
Yeah,
live somewhere and work completely somewhere else. Like it's crazy to think about that. But I want to stick just for the moment with Bitcoin a little bit, because even though we might be the most affected generation by fiat, we, as you also said, we are the first generation of Bitcoin, or depending on like how you look at the first generation of Bitcoin. But we are we are grown up with Bitcoin. So we might be in like 2-3 generations down from us, seen as the boomers of Bitcoin, than the people that got like one Bitcoin for like under 100K, and it was like super easy to buy with a good salary within like 1, 2, 3 years, a whole Bitcoin. And people have to work like all their life to get one Bitcoin in, I don't know, 50 years from now. So I don't know. It's interesting to make that perspective switch, because we make fun of the boomers that they got their real estate for like free blueberries, but the same might be true for younger generations under us when they look at us with Bitcoin.
totally. I completely agree. I do see Bitcoin as this generation's real estate for the boomers. I think it's the equivalent. And it's so funny. I saw somebody the other day on Twitter say that the boomers got their McMansions for 3 strawberries. I thought that was so funny because it's so true. But yeah, I do think that this is an incredible opportunity for our generation that a lot of people, most people, I would say, just haven't woken up to. I think that in the next even 5 to 7 years, we're going to look back and be like, whoa, Bitcoin under 100K, that was like mega cheap. That was a big sale, because I think the price of Bitcoin in 5 to 7 years is going to be much, much higher, and a once in a lifetime opportunity right now to be buying. And so, yeah, I would agree with you there. This is our boomer real estate moment.
Fun. How do you look? Because you mentioned digital credit, and it is almost hard to not talk about Stretch and MSTR and the things that they are doing, even MetaPlanet and maybe Strive also. But Stretch and MSTR is the one that I'm right now comfortable talking about. The other ones I just like haven't researched in deep. How do you look at the digital credit space, Stretch, MSTR, and the things that go on there?
Yeah, I think, within the Bitcoin community, there's a lot of division, and you have the maxis saying that we shouldn't be allowing one institution to buy that many Bitcoins. But I think fundamentally that would go against what Bitcoin stands for, because Bitcoin doesn't care who's buying. Bitcoin is for everybody, whether that's Saylor or whether that's Epstein, whether that's you and I. And so to say that, I think that's just flawed. When I think about digital credit, I see it. I was at the New York Treasury's Unconference last year in September, and one thing that really stuck out to me was Saylor said that if we believe that the money is broken, and if we believe that Bitcoin is perfect money, we need to be basically penetrating everything that broken money touches with Bitcoin. And I think that's kind of the way that I see digital credit. I think that um, you know, the way that Saylor describes it is perfect. It's Bitcoin is digital capital. It's that scarce asset. It's like Manhattan real estate. It's economic energy stored digitally. And so, and I see it as like really the hardest collateral there is, which allows for digital credit, which is the second layer that consists of like the financial products issued with Bitcoin as the underlying asset. So like Stretch, Strike, Strife, Stride, Stream. Stretch is not really backed by Bitcoin, but it's backed by the company that's buying the most Bitcoin. And so I think that, yeah, this season that we're in of seeing all these financial products come about is truly incredible, especially with Stretch. You look at traditional savings accounts in the United States, The national average right now is 0.39%. So not even half a bip is what you get for your savings. And let's just say that they're being honest about inflation. The last inflation report I saw was like 2.4%. Okay, let's just pretend. I don't think it's 2.4%. I think it's much higher than that, but let's just pretend. If it's 2.4% and your savings account is round up to 0.4%, wow, you are losing so much money. Your dollars are dying. And so you look at something like Stretch and they're offering 11.5% dividends paid monthly. Like, that's incredible. I mean, and basically Stretch is just soaking up the volatility. And so for somebody that wants a high yield like that and maybe would prefer to benefit from, Bitcoin's 30% CAGR, but they can't really stomach those drawdowns and the volatility, Stretch is the perfect product. And I think that, I just saw this morning, Fong Li posted that 80% of Stretch is bought by institutions. And so I think that's telling. Like, this is the perfect product for institutions. I also think it's just a great product for maybe the older folks that don't really have all the time to wait for Bitcoin to go to 1 million. And they want to, they deserve to protect their purchasing power as well. And so, yeah, like you said, it's hard to ignore what Saylor's doing and hard to ignore these products. I just want to be clear, though, and say that I don't think that any of these products are a replacement for Bitcoin. I see it as a part of the broader capital stack.
Yeah, that's crazy. I was like, I didn't see that before. Like 40% of MSTR shares are owned by retail, which is huge. Like, that's a huge retail share. I don't know what is usually there for stocks. Like, I'm not into that game too much, but like 80% Stretch shares are owned by retail. That's crazy because like retail needs it the most, I guess. Like the retail investors are the ones that need it. But I think business people will.
You're right.
Or did you say in institutions?
I said institutions, but I had it reversed. But yeah, retail, that's an even bigger story. Yeah, that's incredible. And I think that's so telling. I goes back to my point of like savings accounts and HISAs, money market funds, they're just not keeping up with inflation. And so that makes a lot of sense. And now you have companies too, like Roxum. I love the guys at Roxum, and they're offering dividends paid in Bitcoin. So yeah, very.
That's interesting because I think that there's this story going on in Bitcoin. Like on the one hand, that we think like 2025 had that crazy statistics where 600,000 Bitcoin, I think River brought it out, where 600,000 Bitcoin went from individuals to institutions. In the institutions, they also counted ETFs. So I think ETFs are also mostly, I think, owned by retail. And so it's interesting how this kind of shifts from we get into strategy, we get into Stretch, we get into like Bitcoin ETFs. And I mean, this is probably like the core argument of like hardcore Bitcoin maxis. Even though I count myself in that thing, I don't share this argument all the time. We're like, oh, like we just switch from self-custody to some sort of like third-party layer. But I think especially Stretch is such a great product for retail as a cash reserve. It's just like, why wouldn't you own it? But I'm actually still a little surprised that it's 80% retail. I would have guessed actually that it's more on the non-retail, on institutional sides, because companies have a very, very big problem with a lot of money losing in the cash reserves, and having 11% instead of 5% is a huge deal.
I know, I totally misread that, but that's even more incredible. But yeah, I agree. You would think that it's more so the institutions buying Stretch. I guess a lot of them haven't woken up to this, and a lot of them are like, what's the catch? What's the gimme? So it makes sense. But yeah, that it's Saylor's done something incredible. And honestly, I don't really think that you can replicate it. I think that's where I kind of would draw the line, is like, I think Strategy was able to do this because they came in at the right time. And they're able to, like, their business loses, I think it's like 100 million. They're burning 100 million every year, if not a little more, from their software business. And I don't think that the future of businesses in Bitcoin, or sorry, in general, are going to survive just by owning Bitcoin and having a like business that's dying. And so I think that we see a lot of treasury companies. I really don't think a lot of them are going to survive. I really think there's like maybe 4 or 5 that survive. But I will say that I do think more companies, say like, the company I work for, Bitcoin Well, that we have a profitable product and we're also buying Bitcoin. I think that's the future of Bitcoin treasury companies.
Yeah, like 100%. If you're a profitable company, why wouldn't you put Bitcoin on the balance sheet? Maybe you're such in a growth zone that like you reinvest everything. That might be true, but even then, it makes some sense to put a little bit in there. But I also think, just to close on the institutional side for Stretch, I think institutions just need a little longer time. The same as they needed 16 years to discover Bitcoin, they might need 2 to 5 years to really discover Stretch. My guess would be that the retail share of Stretch will be a lot lower in like 5-6 years when the product is more tested, when the product is longer in the market, and all of that. That's just a guesstimate from my side, but it's fun that it's so high on the retail side.
Yeah, for sure. And I think what's really interesting too is I went to Strategy World, and Saylor said that during a period when Bitcoin fell 45% recently from its all-time high, Stretch lost 0% of its value. So that's kind of like the main pitch, is you get yield tied to Bitcoin strength without riding those crazy price swings. So truly an incredible product. And like you said, I see this as something to park your cash in. I don't see it as a replacement. And I think that's where a lot of Bitcoin maxis will get it twisted. And they think that we're like shilling the product and telling people to buy Stretch instead of Bitcoin. No. I think everybody should be buying as much Bitcoin as they possibly can. However, I mean, that doesn't mean that you don't need like a 3 to 6 month savings. Say for me, like I like to keep some cash for just paying bills and whatnot. And so something like Stretch makes a lot more sense than JP Morgan offering 0.4% on my savings.
I even get accused in the comment sections these days because Stretch and strategy is just a very hot topic right now, and I talk about it a lot more. I wasn't talking about it at all, I think like a year ago. And now I get accused that I'm paid by Saylor. I would love for that to be true, but it's unfortunately not true. I would love to get paid for that in direct ways, but I guess I only get indirectly paid by having strategy shares and being right over the long period of time.
You know what? I get those comments all the time too. I've lost a lot of followers from talking about strategy and Stretch and treasury companies. But you know what? It's okay. It's what I believe in, and if I'm incorrect about something, I will own up to it. But for right now, like from my research, like this is really incredible. And so obviously I'm going to talk about it. I think there are so many worse problems in the world that we should be talking about. And it's like, this is the problem, Stretch. It's just so ironic to me. Like there's so many bigger issues in the Bitcoin space than, Stretch offering 11.5%. And I think another thing too that people forget is like, we still live in a fiat world. We're not living in a Bitcoin standard world yet. I don't even know if we'll see that in my lifetime. Hopefully, but I don't know. As of right now, we're still very much in a fiat world, and this is a fiat product, and it's helping people make more money in a very broken system and broken environment. And so, yeah, I don't know. There's worse things happening in the world than Stretch.
I think even on the other side, I think it's one of the best things happening in Bitcoin. Like imagine we didn't have the constant bit of TradFi buying Stretch, buying MSTR, and then they go ahead and buy spot Bitcoin. I think our bear market would be a lot worse right now. And I think the next bull market will be a lot more aggressive because we have this institutional adoption. Because I think there is very little retail interest and the social graphs are down. Like we have not as much excitement in the market as we had 2021 or 2017. If you measure any of the Google Trends, social media activities, YouTube searches, and all of that, if you take all this into account, we had like 10% of what we were at 2021 when you compare last all-time high with the all-time high in 2021. So the question is really like not does BlackRock and Strategy manipulate the Bitcoin price? The question is more like where would the Bitcoin price be without the institutional adoption side of things? And I think, I want to come back to Strategy, but as you mentioned it, because you said like there are bigger problems in Bitcoin going on. What are you kind of seeing with the problems? Because I'm always interested in what Bitcoiners that are very into Bitcoin are looking at. What is the biggest problem, or what are the things that they would like to see change in the Bitcoin ecosystem?
Yeah, I think within the Bitcoin space, I think the divide is honestly probably one of the biggest problems. And mind you, a lot of the arguments are about custody and people just worried about their sovereignty, and I totally get that. But I think instead of arguing with people online, like we should just be making our education better. A lot of my friends that are into like crypto, not just only buying Bitcoin, but buying a lot of different digital assets, they don't really understand self-custody. And that's a big problem. And I think that I would much rather allocate my time and energy into educating someone on self-custody and how to protect their hard-earned money than to be talking about why Strategy needs to be buying less Bitcoin. And I think the more division there is, the less adoption there's going to be, because it's like, well, who wants to participate in a community that's just always arguing with each other? You have like the cypherpunk saying like, no, like all of you guys are wrong. And then you have the what some people would call the suit coiner saying like, no, you guys are all crazy. Self-custody is extreme. And it's like, guys, like, let's just like reel it in. I think that Bitcoin, the purest form of Bitcoin, is buying it from an exchange, putting it into cold storage and managing it yourself. Anything else is just a plus. Stretch, that's just a plus. That's just a benefit to my life when it comes to cash and like my 6-month savings. All the other products, they're not meant for people who want to be on a Bitcoin standard. And I think it's okay. You can accept that and move on. There's no reason to be arguing with people online and calling people names. And it's like, you hop on spaces and it's worse than high school drama. It's people yelling at each other, calling each other names, like big influencers in the space and like big famous names, like acting like children. And I think that's genuinely like probably one of Bitcoin's biggest problems is we have this just ridiculous drama all the time. And the less unity we have, the slower mass adoption will be. And it's like, if we all have the same goal here, we all want to see more and more people buy Bitcoin and adopt it, then we need to act like we're a team. And so, yeah, I think there's a lot, but that's one of the main ones, I would say.
I would prefer, as you said, like to live in that Bitcoin community. But I have a different perspective actually on that, and I'll try to make it with an analogy clear what I mean. I like there's a lot of reasons why soccer, for example, is very popular in Europe. And maybe also the same thing is true for American football in America, but I have no clue about American football, so I'll stick with soccer for this thing. And one of the reasons I think is like there's like a lot of things, like there's the thing of people are invested in the players, or like they spend time, it's like relaxing time, and like they can check out like bread and circus kind of thing. But one major thing that makes soccer so popular around the world, and especially in Europe, is because the rules allow for interpretation. Sorry for not speaking good English.
No, I got
Yeah,
it.
exactly. And so like there are always decisions that the referee is making, and people are fighting weeks after the game, like how to, like, why is that not like that? Why is not that not like that? They're even going ahead and destroying the car of the referee. They are storming soccer fields and doing really aggressive, massive things, like almost in a civil war kind of a thing. And I have that weird theory that because people are fighting, they are invested in the game. And so in Bitcoin, weirdly enough, because people are so invested in their worldview of how they look at Bitcoin and why everyone needs to eat meat, do self-custody, work out they have so many different kind of worldviews stacked in Bitcoin, and they're fighting about it online. It increases the time that they stay in Bitcoin, and it kind of makes more, not excitement, but it brings more energy overall to the space, and people are more drawn to it. Now, I have no clue that there's no like proof of that. It's just like a theory that I have, observing people, like how, for example, I was last year at Lugano, and the most popular panel there was not some huge speaker. It was the NOTs versus core argument on stage, where like two people with a moderator, like what, it was so full. I was there like 5 minutes early, and I didn't get a space. Like I couldn't get in there. I was like, I'll watch it online later. So I would actually make that argument that the fighting might actually be good for Bitcoin because it brings more energy to the space. Even though I would prefer, because I'm a very non-confrontational guy that like doesn't want that like fighting all the time. Like I want to work together on something. But sometimes fighting brings people really enough together on this, like they're so invested in it. I don't know if this made sense now, but like that's kind of my argument why the infighting might actually be a good thing, weirdly enough, for Bitcoin.
Yeah.
If you live in Europe like I do and want to buy Bitcoin the right way, check out Relai. Relai is a Bitcoin-only platform with no distractions, no shitcoins, just a BTC. It's also the easiest way I've found to do what actually works, buying Bitcoin on a consistent basis. Relai is also self-custodial. They never have the keys to your Bitcoin. No freezing of your assets, no counterparty risk, no rug pulling whatsoever. I have been a long-term fan of Relai, not only because it's incredible, easy to use and very beginner friendly, but also because it just works. If you want to get started with Relai today, click the link down in the pinned comment or in the description. And once you have downloaded the app, type in Robin in the referral code section of the app to save 10% on fees. So set up your DCA Bitcoin plan today with the Relai app and get cheaper Bitcoin if you use code Robin. With Microseed, you can engrave your 12 or 24 word seed phrase, the entire seed phrase, onto a 1-inch small washer. Yes, just one washer. All 24 words on that one washer. You can hide that thing everywhere. And even better, you don't need to buy a new kit every time you have to get a new wallet. You can make unlimited backups because Microseed is not selling the washer. Microseed is selling the device that stamps the washer. So you get the full kit with the device, with the washers, with the hammer, with everything you need to get started today. And you can make with that unlimited amount of backups. Go now to microseed.io. Finally, we have BTC Prague back in 2026. And this year, I'm not only speaking on a panel, but I'm actually going to present an interesting new angle, a perspective, a Bitcoin thesis at BTC Prague this year for the first time ever. I've never done that on any other conference, so this will be a fun one. If you listen to this show on a regular basis, I would love to meet you in Prague this year. It's very high signal, no noise, and Prague is just a freaking amazing city with awesome drinks and a lot of good food. Use code Robin to get 10% off, and if you buy with Bitcoin, you get an additional 5% off your ticket price. I'll see you there in Prague. Make sure to come say hi.
You know what? I totally get that. I think you have a point there. It does make it a lot more interesting, and I do like being challenged by my own ideas, and if somebody's gonna call me out on something, like, I like being able to look back and, like, kinda do a double take and do some more research. My background's Brazilian, and so I totally get the soccer thing. They will fight for months about the one call. It's crazy, but yeah, I think that's an interesting take. It could be good for Bitcoin. I hope so. I hope people look at this and they're like, oh, like this is a really cool community. There's a lot of energy and a lot happening. However, I just worry that people just kind of lose the plot. It's like Bitcoin is the best money and the best asset there is. It's the best network there is. And I think that it's a solution for a lot of things. And I just want to see all my friends and family hop on this train before it goes to 1 million. So
And
that's my
one more small point on that. I'm curious how you think about that and how you observe that. I think that Bitcoiners, especially the early ones, like maybe the ones that are coming in 2006 and 2005, are already a little bit more mainstream than the ones that came in 2015, 14, 13, or like before COVID, let's say, or before 2021, let's say. They are a lot more disagreeable people, like very just like almost wanting to disagree, just to stand like on a special corner. And so it's
Did you say
really,
the people before 2021
yeah, like I
or
think
after?
there is like before, so like there
Okay,
is
yeah,
the earlier they got in, the more
yeah.
disagreeable they are,
Yes.
because it takes a different kind of person to get Bitcoin in 2012 than
Yeah.
it takes someone to get into Bitcoin in 2026. Because in
Totally.
2026 there's way better education. Like the president is talking about it. There are the public companies in there. All that was not there 2012, 14, 15. And so because of that dynamic, you have a lot of disagreeable people
Yeah.
coming in early on that just like disagree on everything with everyone
Mhm.
except Bitcoin. All of a sudden, they agree on something. And I think it's a very strong signal that all those disagreeable people that have so many different opinions on everything, on like sunscreen, on like food, on like diet, on like when you should go out in the sun and when you should not go out in the sun, and they are all agreeing on Bitcoin, is kind of a very strong signal for Bitcoin if you just like look at it from a social perspective.
Totally. Totally. I've seen that too. I've also seen a lot of the people that have left the most hate comments on my account anytime I talk about Stretch or treasury companies are always the people that have been in Bitcoin for like over 6, 7 years. And part of me wonders if it's just like, I don't know, it's just that they want this like exclusive little corner, like you said. They don't like to see Bitcoin getting widely adopted. I don't know. I feel like that, like, I hope I'm wrong, but I feel like that's kind of the whole point of why we do what we do, is to see mass adoption, whether that's the institutions or your grandma. It doesn't matter. And I think that's kind of like the whole point, at least to me, of Bitcoin is just to see the world become better, because the money is awful. And so this Bitcoin comes in and fixes a lot. So I'm not sure why people are trying to make it like this like purity play and this like exclusive club when it's not. Um, but yeah, I've totally seen that as well.
I think it's very normal in early revolutions, where it was a very small aligned circle of group of people, and it was maybe at one point it was one person, then 10, then 100, then 1,000, and now it's millions. There's so many people in Bitcoin. I mean, how many followers does Michael Saylor has? Like, I
Yeah.
would assume most of his followers are at least a little bit interested in Bitcoin. Otherwise, they would have probably unfollowed him at that point
Yeah.
on Twitter. So, so I think there's just like a lot of early cypherpunk that I think made Bitcoin possible.
Yeah.
And a lot of them still understand the mission already now. Like there's a lot of cypherpunks out there that like argue for Stretch and argue for MSTR because they see this is the speculative attack on the fiat system. Like that's what we have been talking about since 10 years that we want to happen.
Yes, totally. And I agree with you. I'm very grateful for the cypherpunks because they did push a lot of this forward. They did establish a strong foundation for this. I think a lot of the argument I've seen from the cypherpunks is that, you know, because I'll come out, I talk a lot about Stretch. And so I'll come out and say that Stretch is a better cash reserve. It's a better savings account, especially if you're someone who is, I don't know, maybe older in age. Say you're 75, 80, you have 150K, 250K, you don't know where to put it in Stretch as your like cash reserve, your savings, right? And the cypherpunks will come out and say, well, oh, you guys should be living on a Bitcoin standard. This doesn't make any sense. You shouldn't hold any dollars at all. And it's like, okay, let's take a step back. I don't think that living on a Bitcoin standard is actually makes sense for most people, especially in the United States, and especially for a young person like me too. I graduated college last year, so I just started working a full-time job last year. Before that, I was buying Bitcoin, but because I was a college student, like it wasn't anything crazy, not like a meaningful amount. I've been buying Bitcoin for only 3 years, and it doesn't make sense for me to spend this incredible asset that's going to help me afford a future. And also for the people, even if you got in early and now you have all this Bitcoin, if you spend Bitcoin, your life does get cheaper. But another thing too is like you're hit with all the tax every time you spend Bitcoin. For me, it just doesn't make sense. Why would I want to spend my Bitcoin on a $5 latte? And now I've lost $5 of Bitcoin that could have been maybe $50 in the next few years. And also I'm going to be hit with tax too. It just doesn't make sense. And so I think that's a lot of like the core argument is that the cypherpunks are saying nobody should hold dollars. And I'm saying, well, why would I want to spend the money that's going to save me? It makes so much more sense for me to spend the melting money. So I think that's part of it too.
100%. Now let's come back to strategy, because we've talked about Stretch, and I think it's an absolutely amazing product. It will unlock a lot of capital from the TradFi world, and it will unlock a lot of capital from people that are interested in buying income products, people that are interested in just like having different cash reserves, all of those things. How do you look at the common shares, MSTR? What's your thesis for strategy itself?
Yeah, for strategy itself, I think, listen, like I'll be honest, I don't own any MSTR. I have thought about buying some MSTR because I'm so bullish on Bitcoin, but at that point I would rather just buy some Bitcoin. I am more so a proponent of the other financial products that they're building, like Stretch, Strife, and Strike, I think are a little bit underrated. I think I'm more passionate about those. MSTR, if you're an MSTR holder, that's like good for you. I do think you like definitely hold, don't be selling. Don't let the drawdown scare you, because in the next 5 years, I think you'll become very profitable. And so, yeah, but for me, it's like, okay, I would rather just buy the Bitcoin because MSTR is like mostly like backed by the Bitcoin holdings. And so it just, for me, it makes more sense just to buy the Bitcoin. And like same thing with Stretch. Like a lot of people are saying like, oh, I'm gonna buy Stretch and then I'm gonna use the dividends to buy Bitcoin. It's like, just buy Bitcoin. Stretch, I think, is just good for savings, but to like try to use it to buy Bitcoin, I don't think really makes a lot of sense. I think you should just buy Bitcoin. But yeah, their long-term thesis with MSTR makes sense to me. And I think that Saylor knows what he's doing. I think just watching him buy so aggressively is just massive signal. We're in the middle of like basically World War III, and this man just keeps buying like nothing I've ever seen before. And so that alone kind of raises the question, like, does he know something that we don't know? And so for me, I think that you see that you should be buying Bitcoin even more. If a big institution is buying it, you as the individual, you should definitely be buying it. And so all that to say, I'm bullish on Bitcoin, and because I'm bullish on Bitcoin, I think by extension that makes me bullish on MSTR. I don't own any MSTR, but if I did, I would be a happy person because I know it's going to go up like crazy.
So, sounds like you should buy some.
I know, maybe I should, but I'm trying to, I don't really like buy stocks per se. When I got into Bitcoin in college, I like had a, small stock portfolio and I sold everything to buy Bitcoin, and I kind of just never went back. I'll partake in products like Stretch and, some of the other really cool offerings. Maybe I'll buy some MSTR, but yeah, I don't know. I'm torn because I'm like, well, MSTR, it's really interesting. I don't know that there's any other offering like MSTR. Like, you couldn't replicate it if you tried. I think Saylor just came in at the perfect time, and it's gonna work out. But yeah, now you're talking me into buying some MSTR.
I'm saying that because I also had before only stocks and then went full on Bitcoin self-custody and only that. And this changed a little bit in December because I never looked at strategy or stretch in any interesting way. And then more and more strategy people came on my podcast, and I'm like, that thing sounds very interesting. And I always buy a thing to learn a thing. So I'll just like log in, buy 5 shares, and then like I have the financial incentive to learn about it. And I did that in I think December it was. I don't remember the exact month, but a couple of months ago. And I and then every time I researched about it, I was getting a little bit more bullish, and then I'm like, okay, let's buy some more. And then like I read more, I researched more. I'm like, okay, let's buy some more. Let's buy some more. I have now a golden rule in my portfolio: 80+% of my wealth has to be Bitcoin in self-custody. Like
Okay.
there's nothing that goes beyond that. Like this has to be Bitcoin. And then I want to have a little bit cash, little bit. I might buy some stretch down the road. I haven't bought it so far. I might wait for Stream to come out in Europe for the retail investors also, not just over the counter. But I look at strategy as kind of spicing up my portfolio. I like a small, interesting thing that is also in there that might massively outperform, might go to zero. Like strategy has more risks than Bitcoin. Like it has
Yeah.
execution risk, management risk, the stock risk, the rug pull risk. Like it has a lot of risks that I cannot control. With Bitcoin and self-custody, I control all the risks that I have with that because I take care of that. And I had Sail on my podcast. I was at this 100K party. I always dismissed strategy completely. So I was not as open as you were actually right now. And definitely had no clue about it. It's just something I'm like, yeah, it's now a really good time to buy and just spicing up your portfolio. It's almost like you have a main dish and you just put like some chili, some spice in there and make the whole thing better, even if it's
I
just
like
like
that.
2% strategy.
Yeah, no, I like that. I think it's interesting because MSTR is, at the bottom of the stack, but if Bitcoin runs, then MSTR can dramatically outperform spot because of the equity premium it trades at. So I think that's really interesting. I definitely, I'm like very much pro MSTR, pro strategy, pro stretch, and all of those products. I just, I don't know. You got me thinking, and it, like you said, it's like, MSTR, there's like obviously more risk. I like your 80% rule. There's in my eyes not really risk with owning Bitcoin. If you just zoom out, people say, oh, Bitcoin's so volatile. But if you zoom out, like Bitcoin's really not that volatile. Like it's only going up really. And so, I try to buy mostly Bitcoin, but I'm with you there. MSTR is really interesting, especially if you're someone who believes, if you're someone who's mega bullish on spot.
Let me ask you one more question on that, and then I will leave you alone on that topic. If strategy would outperform Bitcoin 3x within the next like 5 years, would you regret not buying like a few shares?
For sure. For sure. And let me tell you why. And all the Bitcoin maxis are going to get upset with me, but I don't care. Yes, I would regret it because I see Bitcoin as a financial tool and a financial asset. Ultimately, what Bitcoin allows is, yes, you have the sovereignty aspect. Okay. That's one thing. But the second thing, it is financial. Like if you're someone that's saying, oh, I don't care about the Bitcoin price, it doesn't matter to me, that's a lie. Because at the end of the day, money is a tool that allows us to preserve like our wealth and the time that we put into work to buy the things that matter. For me, I want to get married. I want to become a mom one day. And you can't really do that without proper financial stability. And I see Bitcoin as a tool to help me get there. I also think that, if MSTR, if Bitcoin goes up like crazy and MSTR is like you said, like now providing 3 times the return, like I would for sure regret that, because that's money. That's a tool that I could use to then get those nice things that we all work super hard for. And so, yes, now you have me thinking I would so regret that. And who knows, maybe I'll just be buying some MSTR right after this.
Gosh, I'm not even.
Especially right, it's at a discount.
Yeah, that's what I'm not even 100% sure about strategy yet. Like I will make a video very soon and will really release it very soon about my theory and the whole thesis around strategy, because I've been diving deep so much. I've only told you this right now because it seemed odd to me that you don't own strategy, because I see you a lot posting about strategy and stretch, and I hear that you talk about very positively, and I'm like, I would bite my ass if I would be right about something, would talk about something, and then not benefit from it.
I know. I think, okay, I honestly, I don't really talk about MSTR though that much. I talk about strategy, like the company and like what they're doing, and stretch for sure. MSTR, I haven't really posted about MSTR because I don't buy it. So it feels like it would feel weird for me to like post about MSTR if I don't really buy MSTR. But yeah, I think there's a show I co-host called The Daily Stack on Wednesdays, and one of the other co-hosts, he entered at like, I don't know, like over 300. And what is MSTR trading at now? It's like under
I think
200.
I think 140 or something like that. 138, I think, the last time I looked at it.
Yeah, 136. So yeah, I think I see something like that and I'm like, oh, that's a big drawdown. So, but you're right. If I'm bullish on Bitcoin, which I am, I'm like, mega bullish on Bitcoin long term, then it makes sense. So yeah, I'll have to keep doing some research and just look at the risk, because it's, at the bottom of the stack, but I'm with you there.
Shoot me a DM if you buy your strategy shares. I would be interested to see.
Okay. I'll tag you. I'll DM you when that happens.
Let's talk about social media and AI a little bit. Maybe let's start with AI. How do you look at AI? How do you implement it? And what do you kind of think is also the impact that it has on Bitcoin, digital credit? It came from AI, which is a perfect thing.
Yeah.
But like, how do you look at AI in general?
Yeah, I'm an AI maxi. I'm an enthusiast. I use AI all day, every day. I've been using AI for quite some time now, a few years, and it's incredible to see its growth and progress. Sometimes a little scary with how good it gets. But at Bitcoin Well, I work at Bitcoin Well. We have 5 Claude bots, and it has made our company so much more productive and so much more efficient. AI is technologically deflationary. However, I think it's economically inflationary because of all the job displacements. And I think that's kind of where I get a little worried, especially looking at a majority of the people I went to college with. Like, they're not really using AI. They're kind of, it's over their heads. They're lost. They're just sitting in their cubicles, doing everything the old fashioned way. And in the corporate world, everything moves very slowly. And so they're not even really permitted to benefit from these tools. And that is worrisome, because if we see massive layoffs, we're going to see a lot of inflation. And this is where I see Bitcoin coming in, having hard assets, owning gold, Bitcoin, whatever your hard asset is. For me, it's Bitcoin. That's going to be really, really important in this hyperinflationary time period that I do think we are about to go to. AI is just becoming so much more efficient and so much more intelligent than people realize. And I don't think that people are preparing enough. That being said, if you're listening to this and you're still not really using AI, find any excuse to use AI. just get the Claude subscription, pay the $20, and just test your creativity, try to build something, get practice with it, because if you don't, you will fall behind. And I say this all the time. The people that will get replaced by AI are going to get replaced because they didn't know how to use it. And I think, a lot of people are worried that they're going to lose their job. But if you're someone who's building and you're learning how to use these tools to 10x your output, you'll be okay. That being said, we are going to see, I think, a massive print, bigger than we've ever seen before, bigger than 2008. And so buy some hard assets, definitely buy Bitcoin, which kind of leads me back to like why I'm buying Bitcoin rather than like MSTR. I'm just like, I just want it in like cold storage, but I'll do some more thinking there. But I see AI as something incredible. And, I built multiple sites and platforms using AI very quickly. My platform that I built, staybolted.com, was completely vibe coded. I have no technical background, no software engineering experience. This was just all built with Claude, Cursor, Lovable, and Replit. And so there's a lot of power with using AI and a lot of ability to make money as well. I'm seeing a lot of, I follow a lot of traders on Instagram, day traders, and they're now using AI to help them make super profitable trades. And so I think there's a lot of ways you can be using AI and just try to integrate it into your life to become the most efficient person and worker.
What are you using? Claude is your main one, or you also use ChatGPT or Grok?
No, I don't use ChatGPT at all anymore. I canceled my subscription a while ago because it's just so behind. Claude outperforms chat with almost every prompt. So I use Claude as my main one. And then at Bitcoin Well, we have a subscription to Perplexity as well. Perplexity is really incredible, especially for financial research. Grok is also very good for like real-time statistics. We use Grok a lot at Alt for a lot of our like financial and economic research for our newsletter. But for the site itself, I used mostly Claude and then Replit. But yeah, Claude is probably what I would use the most in my day-to-day, especially like I do a lot of marketing. And so we have like a whole like almost like team of agents that help us with marketing. And it's really interesting at Bitcoin Well, our CEO, Adam, which I think he was on your show actually very recently. He said that he sees a future where Bitcoin Well, every employee at Bitcoin Well is the head of their department and they're just managing like 5 agents. And that's how we become the most efficient Bitcoin company. And I think that's so true. I think that's the future.
The most important thing for your Bitcoin journey is not buying Bitcoin, but it's how to keep them. And yes, you have maybe the right tools, but how do you actually go ahead and stick it all together so it's the most secure for you personally? Self-custody is a deeply personalized journey, and the Bitcoin way is helping you exactly finding that correct setup for you personally. They are also helping you with securing your own cybersecurity. And if you want to go one step above all that, you can even get a consultation for a Plan B residency. Go to thebitcoinway.com/Robin and you will get a 30-minute free consultation. I finally and officially mine Bitcoin. This is not just something to stack more Satoshis, but it's most importantly also to support the network. Individual miners are the ones that keep the Bitcoin network decentralized. And by the way, you get KYC-free Bitcoin. That's why I use Simple Mining. I get an actual proper Bitcoin miner. They set it up for me. They repair it if it breaks down. And most importantly, they let me choose the pool and even connect my own full node. I'm completely sovereign and I'm completely in control. And I can sign up with Ocean, no account needed. I just give them a Bitcoin address and then there's mining going on. No KYC, nothing. So if you're ready to mine Bitcoin, go to simplemining.io, tell them you come from Robin, and let's mine Bitcoin together.
Yeah, it's actually also how I kind of look at building companies these days. You need the owner, you need an operator, and the worker is already AI. Like you need someone that has a responsibility in his field, like an operator in marketing. I don't know if we see it very soon where the head of a department can also be an AI. Like I don't know how far this might be happening in 10 years. We never know how quick all those developments go. Like how cool would it be for me to say, hey, ChatGPT, or like Claude or like whatever you're using, build a Bitcoin newsletter that fits to my podcast, and he just does everything by himself. I don't have to manage him. I don't have to set everything up. Like I think we are a little bit away from that, and I don't know how much this little bit is. Is it 6 months or 6 years? I always, it's like hard to predict the timings because some things can take longer, some things can take not a lot of time, but it's coming, and it's the tremendous gain of first the capital shift that we're gonna live by with Bitcoin, and then the work shift in like AI and the whole. I'm super bullish. One thing I'm also bringing into this discussion always is personal branding, which I found very interesting, because if you think about surviving in this capital shift, surviving in the AI age, I think a personal brand is one of the most important things that you can do as an individual to prepare yourself for not being replaced, for not being irrelevant in the future. I don't know how much you agree on that, or if you have any stance on like personal branding, social media in this new world that we are entering.
100%. Yeah, I've been saying this for quite some time. In a world that's completely digital and increasingly more and more remote and autonomous, your personal brand and who you are as a person is going to be so important for this next shift, because that is something that AI will never be able to replace. You might have bots that try to copy your account and act like you, but those in real life connections using your personal brand are going to become so valuable. When you start to develop a track record for who you are as a person, what you stand for, nobody can replace that. No AI, no person, nobody. And so I agree with you. I think that, especially having a small platform, that just helps with one. Anytime you ship a product, people have already developed this trust with you. And so anytime you want to ship something, say it's a product or a podcast or something new, that makes your ability to grow much easier, because you already established this audience that trusts the things that you say, trusts you, has a connection with you. And so you've already eliminated half the marketing work. Whereas, you see a lot of people building with AI, but they have no personal brand, and then they try to ship the product and nobody cares. Nobody's paying attention because they don't know this person. They're like, oh, cool product, but like, who are you? And so it's a lot more difficult than if you already have an existing audience and you try to market to them. And so I think that you should for sure be trying to grow a personal brand, whether it's on X or LinkedIn or Instagram, whoever. Just establish that audience, like you said, and build some trust, because in this next world, that's going to become one of the most valuable things you can own. Your personal brand, your IP is not something that's replaceable.
I think so, and especially, I mean, you're already seeing the beginnings of that, where people complain about AI slop, where they complain about AI content. And I think they complain about not because the content does not get value across, because I think there's a lot of AI content that gives you a lot of value, but because they know there's no human behind it. And I think humans will always spy on humans, will always connect with humans. Maybe I overestimate humans here, but I have this strong belief that humans want to connect with humans very, very, almost desperately. Like they wanna, they don't wanna buy from like a company. They don't want to buy Tesla because of the Tesla brand. They want to buy Tesla because of Elon Musk and the whole brand around it, and the individuals that promote it. Like this is what people connect with the brand, and that's also why I think like old car brands are kind of dying. But that's a whole nother topic of discussion. But it's I think personal branding and branding in general is really strong, even for a company. If you think about an AI world where I just wanna order a pizza, I can either say, hey, order me a pizza, and AI will figure out, okay, what is the best pizza, what is the best price, what is the best quality, and order it for me, and I don't have to do any thinking. Or I say, hey, I want to have a pizza from Pizza Man. And then the AI doesn't make the calculation which one is the best pizza place. It just like goes to Pizza Man and is like, okay, what pizza does he want? And then order that. And so I think this is the difference. Like having a brand for a company, having a personal brand for yourself is a difference between being commoditized or having a premium on top of you. And so if you want to demand a premium for your brand, a premium for you as a person, you have to have a personal brand. Like if you have two people that you hire for your chief of technology officer, and they have both the same technical skills, but the one guy has 100,000 followers in the Twitter space and in the Bitcoin space, is constantly on podcasts, and is just a known guy. He can demand 4x, 5x the salary as the other guy, just because of the attraction that he brings to his position.
Absolutely. That is so true. And I won't say which company this was, but recently a company tried to convince me to hop over and start working for them, and a competitor of the company I work for. And they offered me a premium because of the personal brand. And it, like, I don't have a crazy following or anything. It's small, but it's growing. And yeah, I only started growing the account 9 months ago. When I started working in the Bitcoin space, I had 40 followers, and then I just started posting very consistently. And they saw that as something that was worth paying a lot more money for. Like, I'm talking tens of thousands of dollars more than what they were offering, another person applying for this role who didn't have the brand. And so I completely agree with you. There's a lot that you can leverage with the brand for sure.
100%. This leads me to my last topic that I want to, not my last topic, but one of the last topics I wanted to get into with you. You're doing a lot in the space. Like I see you a lot on podcasts, I see you on Twitter a lot. And then you're also working for 2 companies, if I got that right, with Bolt and the Bitcoin Well. And yes, Adam has been on, I think at least 2 times already in the show. He's awesome. I think from Bolt also someone was already on. I'm not sure about that, but at least now someone was already on from Bolt. What are you doing in the space, and what are you doing with Bolt and the Bitcoin Well?
Yeah, so I'll start with Bolt. So Bolt is the platform that I started. I launched it earlier this year with my co-founder Ian, and it's kind of more of like a passion project. We're not aiming to drive any revenue or anything. It's a platform full of tools to help people understand the economic landscape we're in and kind of the financial transformation. And so we built a tool called Capital Bridge that helps people model an investment in Strike, Strife, Stride, Stretch. And very soon we'll have a few more other offerings on there from other companies. But for right now, it kind of just helps people understand what that looks like. And then we also built another tool that helps people understand what taking out a loan against their Bitcoin could look like and how much they can stomach, so that they can, just be wise when they're trying to use some leverage. And that's what's on our site. We also have a newsletter that helps people understand kind of just the macro landscape. It's free. It comes out every Monday morning. And so that's what I do at night when I'm done with my 9 to 5. In my day job, I do marketing with Adam and Bitcoin Well, but I actually recently took on a different role as our capital markets lead. So now I'll be focused more on helping with kind of more investor relations initiatives at Bitcoin Well. Like you said, I do a lot. I'm independent. I'm an independent contractor, and so I'm always kind of working on a lot of side projects. I'm working on, as a producer, on a Bitcoin film that's coming out in June, and I'm super excited for that. The trailer's coming out very soon. I don't think I'm allowed to say the name of the film yet, though, but just stay tuned for that. And then, yeah, I'm like, love going on podcasts, love going to conferences. Sometimes I speak at conferences, sometimes I just like going. But I think, like I said earlier, those in real life connections are going to become the most valuable currency you own. And so I really strive to connect with people and look someone in the eye and have a real conversation and shake their hand and it's a lot sometimes doing the full-time job and then building Bull and then working on a film part-time. But at the end of the day, I do it because I love it and I love amplifying the message of Bitcoin. And ultimately, that's what I feel is my mission. As of right now, my mission in life is to help people understand this and be a part of this incredible asset, because the future it's a little bit murky and it's dark, but Bitcoin is a light in my eyes. And so I just want to help people see that and partake.
And you also went to university, and right after that, you came into the Bitcoin ecosystem, or you had some time in between in the fiat world?
Not well. Okay, so during my last semester, I was already working a full-time job in the fiat world. So I was a full-time student and full-time employee, and that was really tough. But got it done. And so from January to June, I was still in school, but I was working as a digital marketer and financial analyst for a marketing agency in LA. And then right when I graduated, I quit that job, and then I started the job with Bitcoin Well. And so there wasn't like a gap after graduation, but I was already in the fiat corporate world, if you will.
How do you look at your time in university? I don't know how it was for you, but there are a lot of people in America that complain about having to pay for university a lot of money and being in debt and kind of having a drawback right from the start of your life when you start in your early 20s.
Oh gosh, if I could go back and change my decision to go to college, I totally would, because looking back, it was the most expensive mistake. I think for my career, I didn't really need a degree. I studied business economics, so not really like a technical career. If you're studying engineering or law, then yes, like you have to go to college. But for my degree, I paid well over six figures, and it's ironic. I tweeted this the other day. It's like my most expensive investment taught me the least about money. Everything in college was Canadian economics, no Austrian economics, no being taught like why central banks actually exist and like the real reason behind that and the way that the monetary system actually works. Like those were things that just were not taught. And so I think that in the US, at least, they set you up intentionally to take out a bunch of loans and, like you said, kind of be set back right at 22 years old and owe six figures in debt, because it's just all a flywheel. It's a part of their system. They want to keep you trapped. And so I aim to help people opt out. But yeah, if I could go back in time and not go to college, I would do that.
You could have bought probably a lot of Bitcoin and soon retire on them.
Exactly. If I would have spent how much I don't even want to say how much I spent on my degree, but a lot of money, I would have just been retired by now off Bitcoin. I would just be relaxing.
Floating around and probably doing the same thing as you're doing now, as it seems that you are very passionate about it. Really cool. Thank you so much. Before we get, actually, you're a new guest, so we have a question that I ask every one of my new guests on the podcast before we have the end routine of the podcast. And the question is, what can we learn from you besides Bitcoin?
What can you learn from me besides Bitcoin? Well, my faith is a big part of who I am and how I go about life. I know Adam probably says this all the time on your show, but pursuing truth and having a solid foundation to stand on is kind of how I think that every person should be living, because without that, what do you turn to when things get difficult? And so what you can learn about me is that I take my faith very seriously, and I really encourage people to do the same. And a lot of people sometimes think that Christianity and reading the Bible can be confusing, but we have so many tools nowadays to just, read one verse and just, try to let it speak to you, try to understand it, digest it. And yeah, it's something that I have been really passionate about since I was in high school. I went through a really difficult time and turned to Christianity and started really taking my faith seriously. And it has only done me very well. And in times where the world just seems like it's so dark and it's kind of just very apocalyptic, that's what I turn to. And so I would encourage everybody to have something you turn to, whether that's your faith or whether that's, I don't know, something else, a hobby, something. What do you turn to when things get tough? I think that turning to God is in prayer is truly the best thing that you could be doing. But yeah, I'll leave you with that.
That's very encouraging to hear from you. I think that's really, really cool. I was very much not religious when I started the podcast, and I'm probably like 4 times more religious than I was when I started the podcast. I'm not fully there yet, but it's so interesting because I asked the question every single new guest that comes on the podcast for the first time, and so many bring that up. And there's and I try to see patterns in social clues. When I see a lot of people that I think are very smart, they all do the same thing. I'm like, maybe I should look into this. Like, maybe I should also research that. If a lot of smart people all do one thing, and there's actually, I think, like scientists and like people that are in scientific field and academia, they often struggle with that because a lot of scientists before were very religious, and then they have this like argument like, oh, like God, this cannot be real, like it's science and all of that, like, and there's a lot of famous scientists and even like modern ones that really turn to faith. And I've just listened to a podcast. Andrew Huberman. I just listened to Andrew Huberman, and he talked about how he, for a very long time, was very anti-religious, and now he's like full on. And the podcast host asked him, "What is your biggest regret?" He's like, "Not turning to faith sooner." It's incredible to hear that.
Yeah, that's definitely my regret too. Could have avoided a lot of hard times, and I think there's doctors and biologists who say that like the act of prayer, literally, like physically, biologically, is healing. And there's studies done. I think I don't know if it was through Harvard, one of these big Ivy League institutions, where they took cancer patients that were religious and those that were non-religious, and the ones that were religious, they recovered much quicker than the ones who weren't, and they were much more optimistic too. Just the practice of prayer is biologically really good, but also, for me as a Christian, I believe that it has power, spiritual power, in my conversations with God. But yeah, definitely love to see you curious and exploring that. I think it's a journey. It's not always a straight path, but I like to see that you're interested.
Having faith in something with that there's a stronger power is very powerful. Obviously. But yeah, I was just smiling when you're saying that, because you said like I could have done it earlier, and you're like 23, you're super young. So I think you're very early to Bitcoin and all the things that you're doing. I think we have an end routine in the podcast where the previous guest is asking a question for the next guest without knowing who the next guest actually is. And the previous guest asked you the question, I think a very fitting one. He asked the question, how do you think about growth investing versus income investing, meaning Bitcoin strategy or Nvidia investing versus bonds, stretch, and all those like income producing assets investing?
Yeah, I kind of I'm like not really tied to one or the other. I think everybody should be doing a mix. I think that there's a capital stack. You have your long-term savings. For me, that's Bitcoin. And then you have your savings that are like your cash that you just want to like grow. And like for you, for example, like that's MSTR, like Nvidia, whatever the stock is. I don't think that you have to choose one or the other. I think that it's all just a part of the broader capital stack. And so I think that definitely just profit where you can. And ultimately, money is a tool. And so use the tool. We're still very much in a fiat world. So if you have to use the fiat tools, use the fiat tools. But at the end of the day, buy as much Bitcoin as you can, because it's the best tool. It's the best asset. Yeah, I'll leave you with that.
I think that's a perfect way to end the podcast. Buy as many Bitcoin as you possibly can. Before I let you go, though, where can people find you, ask you questions, and reach out to you?
Yeah, you can find me. I'm primarily on X, just at Halston Valencia, just my full name. I'm on LinkedIn as well, same thing, Halston Valencia. Been starting to tap into Instagram a little bit, but not really. Mostly on X. And then you guys should all subscribe to my free newsletter that comes out every Monday morning. We talk about economics, geopolitics, MSTR strategy, all the different preferreds, and everything we talk about is with a Bitcoin lens and with the lens that Bitcoin is the future. So definitely subscribe at staybolted.com.
Awesome. Then thank you so much. Thank you so much for Halston for being on the podcast. And also thank you so much for everyone that is watching and listening for joining us today. As always, I'll be back. This content is for educational and entertainment purposes only and does not constitute financial advice.